Good day, and here we have a really old review that has not been remastered or redone in any way. It even has the original title credit song, which you guys probably can't hear. This is the old doodly 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 doo title card, not title card, theme song. This actually comes from like a side-scrolling shooter, or it could be top-down, I forget, game called Fighting King. And this is pre-title card days, so as you can see, it's just all the games, consoles, and the TV. And here we have just the intro to Oblivion here. I think this review turned out pretty good, and the reason I say it turned out pretty good is this actually marks the transition to the second era of reviews. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're currently in the third era, and wow, look at how it chugs in the background. Because my computer could barely run. We're at episode 24 of Oblivion. This is back when I still counted the episodes. Just to show you how old this is. And wow, look at that guy in his hair helmet again. Incidentally, that's one of my favorite shirts I got on there. That's my black Hawaiian-styled shirt. And as you can see, we still got the PS2 there before it ended up in a box. And holy shit, what just happened there? Why did it pixelize? We're still using, at this current time, Corel, but we're using... Okay, this is going to sound kind of funny. Okay, we're still using Corel, because I still haven't learned how to use Adobe. We just now, as of this review, own Adobe. But we're not using Adobe yet. What we're using is Corel to edit, but Adobe Media Encoder to... oh yeah, here's a joke. Oh, we'll get to we'll get to fantasy in a minute, but I want to get some of the technicals out of the way. Essentially, what we got here is Dollar General. That store doesn't exist, and sorry for the Facebook noise. But we're using Adobe Media Encoder to encode this into F4V. This is the very first F4V video, and that's why this still looks good even to this day. But we're still using Corel, that's why this looks weird. The reason why Dragon Age, the footage here looks weird, is we're using the... Whoa, and look at that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you why that looks like that. Essentially, Corel could not process my camera footage at all. So what I'd have to do is I'd have to convert the camera footage into something else. And for the longest time, what would I do? Oh yeah, this scene here was actually used in Star Trek Federation. And I decided just to reuse it here. But anyway, where was I? Oh, it's actually from my original Fallout 3 save. And I know, and we'll get to why Fallout 3 doesn't really apply anymore. But anyway, so I'd have to convert my camera footage each time. That's why some of the camera footage in this review looks good and some of it looks like crap. Because I would accidentally convert it to the wrong file type. These days I don't even have to do that because Adobe can read it right off. But, where was I? The early bit of this whole review is me talking about fantasy in general, prior to meeting Timpedia. For those who don't know who that is, he's the guy in the suit in one or two of my reviews. Timpedia was actually a good friend of mine for the longest of time, and we went through a falling out period, but we're still more or less friends today. But Tim was the first person to really convince me to get into fantasy, because for many years I didn't think fantasy was a legitimate genre. I just considered it, you know, here's this... and also why it looks like that with all the, you know, red bits, I don't know. The gameplay footage here still looks pretty good, but this is like really taxing my computer at this point. I think a short time after this review, there might have been another upgrade, I forget. But anyway... Timpedia was the one who convinced me to play Dragon Age Origins, and once I played that, I really got into fantasy. Now we got the clip, the footage here looking really good, because it's been converted into the appropriate format. But, thanks to Timpedia, I got into fantasy. Really, though, had I ended up meeting Mizio first, or earlier in my life, I probably would have gotten into fantasy a lot faster. But it's still thanks to Timpedia that I got into fantasy. And from Dragon Age, I went on into this game, as I could show. This review actually has something like 20,000 views, which isn't altogether that much, but it's a lot for me. And, you know, I started up comparing this to Dragon Age, and I've had some complaints of, like, how dare you compare a 2009 game to a 2006 game, and I find this so comedic, because Dragon Age and Oblivion are two very completely different games. Dragon Age, is a BioWare game. It's very story-heavy, whereas Oblivion can have good story. But you have to mod the shit out of it for that, because the story for Oblivion is really very basic. And I also recall complaining about Fallout 3 a lot. This was, of course, at the height of the hate period. Like, we were at the height of it. Little did I know, about a year after this review would be released, I would end up meeting Mizio, and the hate period would eventually be completely over, and I would do another review of Fallout 3. In fact, I imagine after this review here, we're going to take a look at Fallout 3. But I just completely shit on Fallout 3, and I don't even know why, because when I met Mizio, and Mizio was all like, I want to play Fallout 3, and at first I was like, oh, this game's shit. And then a little while later, I was like, oh yeah, Fallout 3, you can do this, and this, and this, and this happens, and this happens, and Mizio's like, it doesn't sound like you hate Fallout 3, it sounds like you really like it. And I'm like, holy crap, I do! So it's kind of funny to think how I completely hate on Fallout 3 for what is literally no reason. Don't ask me. That's the nature of depression. You'll end up hating shit that you don't really hate, but you do. But you say you do for some reason. This Oblivion playthrough is actually comes from saves from my very first Oblivion playthrough, actually. So I don't really have very good armor. There's the Facebook noise again. But I don't have very good armor. I've got some really crappy level mods of like Stormtrooper armor and like camouflage armor, and I don't really know the game that well. And in fact, I don't. When I review this, I don't know it that well, and I miss out on so many elements that should have been talked about. But this review still turned out pretty good, and people still like this review because it's one of my highest rated reviews. It's got some of the most views. Oh yeah, this actually has Armory Lab installed. But this is a review that really kind of showcased a newer style, and a style that sort of lasted with us to this day of HD reviews, of reviews that have like one or two jokes in it and are mainly just focused on the game alone. This is where most of what had already sort of begun as staples was finally fully codified and wouldn't change at all to this day. Let's see. Oblivion itself at this time was still a novel concept to me because the whole concept of fantasy just was very new to me. I knew next to nothing about fantasy. I wasn't into Gotrek and Felix. I hadn't read any of the Driz books. It was just like, you got a sword, and like, I guess that's cool. Now, I'm a huge fantasy fan. I've read, a bunch of fantasy books at this point. One book I recommend reading, it's actually written by Nathan Archer, the guy behind the Predator books, actually. Although he uses a different name, and I can't remember his name, but it's called The Misenchanted Sword. That is a really, really good book. It's a very light book. Oh yeah, here's Dragon Age again. This is using a weird screen resolution, actually. I think it's like 1440 by something or other, which is the highest I could actually use. And I was happy I could do that. But we'd later see a review of Dragon Age, years later, with Mizio, of course, and it was after a significant upgrade to the computer to where I could run it at 1080p, full graphics and everything. But back in the day, running at 1080p with full graphics was, well, a feverish dream of a madman. But at the time, I'm just trying to really grip my head around this concept of fantasy, and it's funny, all the stuff I say, I'm like so amazed by it, but now it's like, it's nothing, And I barely touch on any of the mods, which is just insane compared to what... But 2010, when this review came out, was a very interesting year because, really prior to 2010, I didn't talk to that many people. Timpedia was really the first real friend I had ever had. Oh yeah, there's that conversation wheel that sucked. Just bribed the Boston. I think I even say that. But Timpedia was one of the first friends I ever really had. I won't say the first, really. And I would be introduced to a lot of new concepts. I really like that silver axe. I'm not really paying attention if I'm reusing clips, but just to be on the safe side, you suck, General Lotz. But this review here is very indicative of this sort of new era where I'm not just doing reviews like in this vacuum of just me. This is where I'm getting introduced to new concepts and things via Timpedia, and it's really just it's an amazing. 2010 was a very amazing year, a very informative year. Not as much as 2011 or 2012, but definitely we started to see a new concepts really starting to rise. And I still find it funny. I'm showing a lot of Dragon Age footage, but I guess realistically you can't compare Dragon Age and this game. Oh yeah. Here's a funny story. You want to know one of the first things that happened when I got into Oblivion? I installed some mods because Timpedia had recommended putting in some mods into the game. And you see that armor I have on there? This is from one of my very earliest saves. I wish I still had it, but I don't. Oh yeah, there's my face. You know why I look so old? Because I installed a face mod that completely broke the game. So now it made everybody look old. Right, that Dremora longsword was awesome, actually. But, let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, that's some great footage there. But the reason why I got all this armor is, okay, so I'm in Oblivion. I've never done anything in Oblivion. I went and picked up a blunderbuss, because yeah, I'm modded in a blunderbuss. It shot blaster bolts, don't ask me why. And like, okay, here's some horses in a stable. So here I am, idiot General Lotz. Like, oh, there are horses there. You can just ride one whenever you want, right? No. I got on one and like one of the guards started attacking me. Oh yeah, look at this. This is the very earliest armory lab. Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys saw it. Oh wow, that's another great little thing there. But anyway, armory lab. We had a stormtrooper. There's a stormtrooper. He's got the blunderbuss that I used to kill the guy. I'll tell you. And then we got all the Starfleet Knights back there. That's actually from a mod called Duke City. You talk to Captain Picard, you fix a transporter, and you go to a modern, like, American city where you can pick up guitars and use them as melee weapons. It was a great mod. I actually did that was actually the first Oblivion Let's Play I ever did. It's of that. Oh yeah, there's a gun mod that of course I had to do. They're just stabs though. Oh yeah, this is where the game. This is where the mod kind of breaks because it's the game itself that does it. Where you got the TV, big screen TV. But anyway, before this review ends out, I never actually used this particular armory lab ever again though. But what was I? So the first thing I do in the game is I think you can just take the horses, right? You can't. You have to pay for them. Until I got the guards chasing me, I just straight up shoot him and take his gear. That's my first experience in Oblivion, knowing absolutely nothing. I shoot the guard and take his armor, and that's it. And then, of course, you know, here I am trying to fight the guards of Imperial City. Everybody did that. Everybody. Oh, yeah, here's 3 inches of blood playing in Hexen. So, yeah, that was Oblivion. This is a great little review. Definitely shows difference. There's a big difference between this review and a lot of the other reviews I've talked about. Because this is where things were really starting to get... Shit was getting real. And so... This is the illustrious General Lotz, signing off again.